Hello and welcome back to another episode of Fully Booked, the Hidden Gems author podcast, in which Craig Touch and myself, Roland Jim, chat some of the interesting figures and leading lights of this crazy industry we're in of writing and self-publishing. And today I would like to welcome somebody who's practically a neighbor to me, just down the road here in New Jersey. It is Kevin G. Chapman, who is a lawyer by day, author by avocation, as you said. And we would very much like to welcome you to the show. How are you doing today, Kevin?
I'm doing just fine. Glad to be here, Ronald and Craig.
And of course, we wouldn't be here without the man himself, Craig Touch, the owner and founder of Hidden Gems and an author himself. How are you doing today, Craig?
Doing great. Thanks for coming on, Kevin, and thanks for giving us your time to talk about your own publishing efforts, and specifically what we want to talk today about is how you promote your paperback versions of your book, your self-published author. And that's something, I know that you've started your own publishing company as well, but typically, other self-published authors can do that as well, but still a difficult endeavor to promote your paperbacks when you don't have like a big publishing company behind you pushing them out to stores and all that. And similarly, you have some tricks you've learned for promoting your own audiobook, right? And that's another area where authors are kind of like, they create the audiobook, they go through all the steps and all the work of creating the audiobook, and then they're like, I don't know what to do with it now. Like, where do I go to promote it? So those are topics that I think are really, really important to our audience. And thank you for coming on today to talk about it. So why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and your writing and your journey here, and then we'll get into it.
Sure. I'm a lawyer by trade, and started really writing fiction seriously in about 2016. I had spent about 10 years writing the Great American Novel, which I finally got out of my system, and which nobody was interested in buying and reading because it was a serious piece of literary fiction about politics and self-determination. And yeah, it's not a real sellable product.
I kind of want to read it now. After that.
Good, it's out there. And but I had written a short story featuring a New York City homicide detective named Mike Stoneman, and I really liked that story, and I decided that I wanted to try to turn that into a full-blown novel. And so I spent 2 years from 2016 to 2018 working on that, getting that done. It's called Righteous Assassin. There it is behind me. And that was a book that was marketable because it's detective fiction. It's a crime thriller. And yeah, people were actually interested in reading it and buying it. And that was the kickoff to writing what is now 5 more books in the Mike Stoneman series. And now just published book number 6 in that series, and in between I've written 2 other novels that are standalone, so that's 8 novels in the last 8 years. So hey, that's pretty good for a guy with a day job.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of our authors have that sort of same, not that they're lawyers, but a lot of them have day jobs, and it's often the goal of an author to make the writing their day job, but in a lot of cases that's just not possible, or they enjoy their day job and they don't want to quit it. But yeah, it's the idea of splitting your time between day job and writing. That's very, very familiar to most of us.
Maybe you need.
And as you mentioned, as you mentioned, I set up a little LLC for myself, so I have technically an independent publishing company called First Legacy Publishing. It doesn't publish anything but my own books. Actually, there was one friend who wanted me to help him put something out on KDP, and I published that under the First Legacy banner. But it's really just a way to separate the finances and for tax record purposes. I am now this close to First Legacy Publishing being a profitable enterprise. Not quite there yet, but it's getting next year. I'm hoping 2025 will be the first year I have to pay taxes for profit on the publishing business.
Oh well, yeah. That's a really good thing to actually let people know about, because a lot of people when they start out, they're like, why am I not making huge amounts of money and things? But if you approach it as a business, you do need to build a foundation and go through a period where breaking even, keeping your face clean is nothing to sneeze at.
Absolutely. I mean, nobody makes money off their first book. I suppose one in a million, but it's a slow grind toward getting to the point where you've got enough books. I've got enough books now in my catalog where people read one and then they want to read another. And between all of the various formats that they're in, I'm on Kindle Unlimited in addition to, obviously having things up for sale. And those page reads actually bring in a pretty large percentage of my revenue. So it builds a little bit at a time. There's always expenses. Each new book you have to pay for, but it is slowly getting to the point where I think maybe when I retire in 3 or 4 years, there might actually be a profitable writing business that I can make my second career.
Well, that's a brilliant ambition to have.
Yeah. And I mean, that's, I think that the idea that more books are going to make you more profitable is also something that we've talked about a lot. And I know Roland is, especially with the idea of direct sales, which is something he's been talking a lot about, specifically how, there's no point in even doing it until you have a bunch of books, right? And this is exactly why you want people to have you promote one and then they go and they like it and then they read the rest of your catalog. So it sort of spreads that cost of advertising, promoting across your whole catalog instead of trying to get it back in one book.
Well, direct sales is actually something that's worth talking about, because just in the 8 years that I've been doing this, the ability to have direct sales has grown considerably. When I first, this is 2018, I don't know that there really was any easy way other than just having people contact me by email and having me ship them a book. That was about the only way to do a direct sale. But now there's several different avenues to do it that I'm taking advantage of. And, one of them ties in with paperbacks and hardcovers, and that's IngramSpark. I've been publishing all my new books in hardcover and also in paperback through IngramSpark, which does a couple of things. First of all, it's available to bookstores. And so as I'm trying to market myself, we can talk about that a little bit later, market myself to bookstores, they have to be able to purchase them. And so you got to go through IngramSpark. They also sell books to libraries. So when librarians are looking to purchase a book, somebody walks into the library and says, "Do you have Kevin G. Chapman's Thrillers?" And they can look it up, and hey, there it is. I can order it. Librarians don't love ordering books from Amazon, but they're very happy to put in their order from IngramSpark and because that's where they buy all their books from. So you get the books into libraries, you get revenue from the books being in libraries, you get people to read your books, and then they're interested in your next book, which isn't maybe not quite yet available in the library. So that's another little bit of the revenue stream. And IngramSpark now also has direct sales. So you can get a link, you can put that link on your website or in your newsletter or in your emails. And if somebody wants to buy the hardcover or buy the paperback, they can buy it directly from IngramSpark rather than having to buy it from Amazon. And the profit for the author is a little bit better from IngramSpark than it is from Amazon, and the quality of the books is tremendously better. The IngramSpark book the covers, the pageant, the print quality is, I think, significantly better than Amazon.
It makes a real difference. Like having physical copies of your books, it's, even though I sell most of my books are ebooks, but it's still, when you actually have the physical copy in your hand, it really makes you feel like a real writer. And then it's really enjoyable to think other people actually have physical books, physical things you've written.
Autographing a book for somebody is one of the great things about being an author, independent author or otherwise. When somebody wants a book, wants you to inscribe it, they want to buy a book for their friend for a holiday present, and they want you to autograph it for them and ship it out to them. That's great. And having being able to get the physical books. Now, I will say, IngramSpark charges a little bit more to me as an author for me to get a supply of paperbacks or hardcovers that I can then take with me to book fairs or book signings or just have in my own inventory to send out to people. That's a little bit more expensive from IngramSpark, but the quality is much better. So I'm happy to pay a little bit more for that. And so that's direct sale for physical books. And now also there's a company that's teamed up with BookFunnel. I'm sure you're familiar with BookFunnel.
Oh, absolutely.
I wish I discovered BookFunnel years before I actually did. Somebody finally gave me a tip and said, you should really check this out. I said, it's the best thing that ever happened to me as an independent author because of all the things you can do, the ways you can distribute your own books. But they've also teamed up with a company called Gumroad. It's a weird name, but Gumroad now will allow you through BookFunnel to directly sell audiobooks and eBooks. So once again, you can just have a direct sale link and somebody wants to download your ebook, they can go, you can send them directly to Gumroad. They will handle the distribution of the ebook directly to the person's Kindle or wherever else. And so you're selling it now without KDP, without Amazon. And it's marginal, the additional amount of revenue you get as an author by cutting Amazon out of the picture. But every little bit helps. And they also will distribute your audiobooks, which is, again, hugely helpful because audiobooks are available lots of different places, and it's not that hard to get your audiobook listed at Barnes & Noble and at Kobo and Walmart and all of the Chirp, all of the places in addition to Audible. But being able to market them directly lets you do a couple of things. One is you can set the price, which you can't really do in most other markets. You can run specials, you can run a promo and do a discount, but you can't really set what the price is going to be for your audiobook. It depends on what each of the retailers decides that they want to put it up for. And also, just because you're doing it directly, it gives you more flexibility in your marketing to be able to just decide where you're going to target. And here's the link, and you can get it directly from me. You don't have to go through any other retailer. So all of that helps in the marketing process.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when you're selling it through Ingram for your physical books, are you don't have a competing create-based version, right? You just sell your Ingram the paperbacks on your Amazon page. Is that right?
No. Well, I actually also upload them to Amazon separately. So if you order a book from Amazon, it will come from Amazon. Okay. But if you order it from me or you use the direct sale link, I'm sourcing those books from IngramSpark. It gets a little weird because if you only have the book on IngramSpark and you don't upload it to KDP, then when somebody orders a book from Amazon, they source it from IngramSpark and they order copies. Right. And then there's it hits your bottom line because of the additional cost that comes in when Amazon sources your book from somebody else. Plus, Amazon occasionally, and I haven't had this happen to me, but I've heard from some of my indie author friends that occasionally Amazon will order a whole bunch of books, and then if they don't get ordered, they return them. And then you get hit with the return fee from because Amazon sent the books back. Like, no, that's not the way this is supposed to work. When it's supposed to be print on demand, and you order one book, and you don't have to deal with an inventory. But one of the downsides from IngramSpark when you're marketing to bookstores is you do have to have they do have to be returnable. Bookstores aren't going to order your books unless they can send them back, which is fine. I mean, that's the way the business works. And I want the bookstores to order however many copies they want, 2-3 copies, put them on the bookshelves. And I've had a few get returned. I had one bookstore do something really weird, which was they ordered a bunch of hardcovers, and then a month later they returned them. A month? You only had them out for a month, and then you're going to send them back? But okay, fine. I have my hardcovers returned to me because I don't like to just eat the cost of printing a hardcover, but the paperbacks just get trashed if the bookstores return them, and I get charged for that, and it's all part of the accounting for the bookstore sales. But that's the business. That's the way the big boys do it. So if you're going to be in that market, you got to do it the way that it's supposed to be done.
So you don't, or maybe it's not an option to have the paperback sent back to you as well, so that you could then use them to send to people, or?
You can, but the price of shipping the paperbacks back to you is kind of not worth it, given that how much paperbacks cost in the first place. So,
Right.
but for the hardcovers, I do it. And we can talk a little bit about bookstores and IngramSpark is one of the things you wanted to talk about. I started off trying to get the local bookstores in my area to carry my books. And a couple of them would do them on consignment, where I would just provide them with the copies. They would put them on the shelves, and if they sold, great. And if not, I would come and pick them up and take them back. But I really wanted to get a little wider with that. And so I did a lot of research and tried to figure out how to make it work. And I got a little help from my local Barnes and Noble. My books are not in Barnes and Noble physical bookstores, except the one in Princeton, which is near where I live. But they are listed on their website. So if you walked into a Barnes and Noble anywhere in the country and you said, I want this book, they would order it for you from their catalog. They would source it from IngramSpark, and they would have it shipped. But the local bookstore explained to me how the whole system worked, and they ordered some of my books. I did a book signing at the local Barnes and Noble, and that all, got me going. And then I joined up with my local regional independent bookstore association, which is an amazing thing. Of course, there's an independent bookstore association. And in the Northeast, there's an association that runs from Maine down to Virginia and, all along the East Coast. And they took me in. I got to pay a registration fee with them to be part of the organization. And they gave me a mailing list of all of the member independent bookstores, so I could send out letters. Here's my new book. It's coming out. It's going to be available in hardcover. It's going to be available in paperback. You can order it from IngramSpark. You can, with the standard discounts you have to give to bookstores, and fully returnable for the bookstores. And I just sent out direct mailings to all of those bookstores and tried to get them to be interested. And a few were, and then a few more. And I also targeted bookstores around the country that specialize in mysteries and thrillers. There are such stores. There's one in Princeton, actually, called the Cloak and Dagger, which is all they carry are mysteries and suspense and police procedurals. And so they're terrific. And so getting the books into a few stores is a good thing. It's a great ego hit when you walk into a bookstore and you can see there's my books on the shelf right next to all of the big names. And matter of fact, my books tend to be alphabetized next to the books about oh gosh, now I can't even remember the name. They did a TV series about a writer who was what's it?
No. I was thinking the wrong thing.
It starts with a C. It's alphabetized next to me.
Californication. No, that was a TV show.
No, that was anyway. I'll think of it. But the point is that it's there. It's there on the bookshelf, and I can take pictures of myself next to my books on the Barnes and Noble bookshelf. That's an ego boost.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's also money. It's not a lot. It's a little bit at a time. I've got a couple of bookstores in Australia now that carry my books. I got a couple in Canada, and I got a couple in the UK. So it's not a large distribution yet, but every time I put out a new book now, I can send out the flyers and the mailings and say, hey, here's another one coming out from me, and maybe you want to get this one and put it on your shelves. I'm going to Bermuda for a trip, and the bookstore in Bermuda carries my books.
Oh, that's great.
Because I wrote a book that was actually set partly in Bermuda, and so I sent them a note and said, I've got this new book. It's about a murder on a cruise ship, and some of it takes place in Bermuda, and would you like to carry the book? And they said sure. And I go and autograph all the copies on their shelf every time we go to visit.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Wow. So what's the breakdown then of is sort of like the income that you're getting from your physical copies versus the ebook? Do you have an idea of like sort of what the percentage is?
Well, if you break everything down, the largest chunk of my revenue is actually Kindle Unlimited page reads through Amazon's Kindle Unlimited program. After that, the next is eBooks, all eBooks from all sources, and that between those two, that accounts for about 60% of all the revenue, 65 maybe, and then the rest is audiobooks and the bookstore releases and my direct sales. So it all cobbles together, and I can't live without Amazon. I can't live without KDP. I can't live without Kindle Unlimited because that's the biggest chunk of my revenue. But everything else that you can do, I mean, you're only exclusive on Amazon for your ebook. But the ebook is not available in other retailers because I want to be on Kindle Unlimited. And if you're on Kindle Unlimited, you have to be exclusive to Amazon. And that's been fine. I don't mind that. But I can directly sell and market the audiobooks and the paperbacks and hardcovers wherever I want.
And do a much better job for yourself in doing so.
Well, every once in a while, Amazon will send out an email, and I'll get friends of mine will send me a copy. Say, "Ooh, Amazon just sent me an email, and it's got your book in it," because their algorithm figured out that they had purchased one of my books previously, and so they send them out an ad to tell them about my new book. But yeah, Amazon, I do Amazon ads. I do ads on Facebook. I occasionally run ad campaigns on BookBub, and those are all really targeted to eBooks, because that's really what that market is for, is click here and get your ebook. But I've also done some marketing campaigns specifically for the audiobooks. And I guess, Craig, that was one of the things you wanted to maybe talk about, is how do you market audiobooks? And the answer is, it's not easy. There's so many places you can advertise your ebooks. And whenever you're advertising an ebook, you're also advertising your paperbacks and your hardcovers, because to the extent that somebody sees the ad and is interested in your book and prefers to have a physical copy, well, they're going to have to go find it, and they can find it on Amazon or on my website. But finding places you can specifically target audiobook listeners is a lot harder. And yet there are a lot of audiobook listeners out there. I constantly have people who will ask me, is the book available as an audiobook? Because I like to listen to audiobooks. And I'm able to say, yes, it is. And here's the link where you can go find it. I can also send out free audiobooks through BookFunnel and use that as marketing. And that I can do also for my reader magnet. So I've got some short stories, and I've got a novella that I don't even try to sell. I just use them as freebies to give away as part of my marketing and newsletters. And you can buy a physical copy of the novella, but that's just a very small piece. But having those recorded as audiobooks, I can then send those out also for free. And if somebody is an audiobook person, and they can say, ooh, I want to go and look now on, if I'm an Audible subscriber, I can go look on my Audible library or my index and find my books on Audible. Or if it's on Chirp, or if it's on Barnes & Noble, or wherever you subscribe to, you can find them, and you can get them. And the great thing about audiobooks from a marketing perspective is that they're pure profit. Much like, the ebook is pure profit in the sense that, you've paid to produce it, and now you don't have to print it, you don't have to ship it, you don't have to worry about it getting returned. It's once the capital investment's been made, every purchase is just profit, and people will pay more for audiobooks than they will for ebooks. That's just the marketplace is such that people are conditioned to pay more for an audiobook. And so it's a great thing when you see the audiobook sales. And again, they're small. You hope that they grow. You hope that they keep going up and up, but every little bit's helpful.
I mean, direct sales of audiobooks is like a fantastic opportunity, I think, because it's so seamless. You can build your landing page and send them through, as you said, to Gumroad through BookFunnel so they get their audiobooks delivered immediately. And I think that to me is a much more attractive proposition than advertising my audiobook that's on Audible or somewhere else like that, because you have more control over it.
Yes, you no longer I no longer have to put in links to Audible or put in links to Amazon. I can just put in a link to my website landing page, and on that landing page you can find links to all the different places that you could buy the books, but the first one is the direct sale link. So if you really want to get it through Amazon, okay, here's the Amazon link. You really want to get it through some other source, you know, if it's an audiobook, you want to get it from whatever audiobook retailer you have a subscription to or that you generally use, here's the link for that. But there's also the direct sale links, and they're right there on my website's landing page, and that becomes the link that I try to use whenever I send out marketing. Although there still are some marketers out there who don't let you do that you have to have an Amazon sale page. That's the only thing that they'll accept as the click through for whatever promo that they're running. And I'm hoping that those retailers, with pressure from those of us who pay them, will start allowing us to use other links besides Amazon. But I suspect some of them get kickbacks from Amazon through their affiliate program. So that'll be a hard sell.
So with the audiobooks, well, it is, you know, I understand the idea that of it being as profitable as ebooks after that initial cost. The problem is the initial cost is often much higher, right? Because you're hiring, you know, the voice actors, and you're doing the, you know, the production of the ebook or the audiobook. So it really depends. We've done a few episodes on that, and it, you know, it can be fairly pricey as an upfront thing. So even though you're making all that profit, are you selling enough, I guess, to recoup what you spent on the audiobook, or are you just saying, you know, it's another way to get yourself out there, which will then bring more readers in a long run capacity to building up your audience and eventually making it profitable?
Well, in my case, I don't pay for that because I record my own audiobooks.
Right.
And I have, you know, I know there are a lot of people who think that that's something that they can't do. I'm actually going to be doing a program at the Princeton Library's annual author fair in April. I'll be doing a program for independent authors on how to record your own audiobooks. And it's not as hard as people think it is. It's not easy. It takes time. It's an investment of time and energy and effort. But I have been extremely happy being able to put my audio out and not have to pay such a huge upfront price to get it produced. And that's why, for me, it's when I say it's pure profit, that's because I'm really not spending $5,000 to get the audiobook produced. And that's a barrier to entry for a lot of people to have an audiobook. But what I've found is, I mean, I don't know what other people's experiences will be. I'm not the greatest audiobook narrator in the history of the world. Nobody's going to hire me and pay me thousands of dollars to narrate their audiobook for them. But the audiobooks are narrated well enough that the reader can essentially experience the book through their ears rather than through their eyes. And my narration is not so terrible that people will throw it down in disgust and say, I'm never going to listen to another book by this guy. But the point is for them to listen to the story, to hear the story, to experience the book. And it doesn't have to be Tom Hanks' voice talking to you through your ears in order for you to be able to do that. And so far, so good on that. Again, there's a learning curve. The first time I did one, I screwed it up so badly that, that I literally had to re-record the whole book. I swear, it was awful, because I screwed up the one of the technical elements of the recording process. But okay, so lesson learned. I can share that with people and make sure they don't make the same mistake I did. But once you figure out how to do it, it takes me about 2 weeks to sit down in front of the microphone, this very microphone I'm using right now, and put on these very headphones and narrate the book. And then it takes me another month or so to do the editing and the mastering and get it put into shape that I can push it out. And I build that into my whole publication schedule now, that, you know, when is the book done? And then when is the audiobook done? And when am I going to launch? And I, you know, try to do it so that the audiobook is available at the same time as the ebook. And I'm amazed at how many people really want the audio. And great, you know, it's available. Here it is. Here's the link. Go listen to it.
Yeah, these days audiobooks are becoming much more popular. I mean, everybody's so busy, you know, it's just easier to, everybody's into multitasking now. So you want to drive, or you want to take the subway or the bus and the train, and you can listen to your book, and you don't have to worry about, you know, especially if you're driving, obviously you can't be reading. You could be reading on those other ones, but sometimes, you know, you'd rather put something on and tune out what's going on around you. So yeah, we find that audiobooks, when we started, audiobooks were so new and wasn't very popular. They're definitely become much more popular. And as you said, people do accept that there is a higher price because, you know, I think that they understand that usually there's a lot of more costs involved in the sense of hiring voice actors and doing all that stuff. And even when you're doing it yourself, there's, you know, your time is money, right? It's spending you're taking a month and a half to produce that ebook, to produce the audiobook on top of all the time you spent to write it. So, you know, that it's fair to expect that you'll pay a little bit more for that. And it's, you know, it's hours of talking. Like each book is probably, you know, when you finish it, how many hours?
It's about 10 hours, about 10 on average, about 10 hours of audio when the book is finished.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I think that that's a lot of value. People understand that. And I think it's great that you can sell it direct as well on top of all those other sites. So the one of the problems with some of those other sites too is getting those promotional copies and being able to have free, like being able to give out free copies when you want to, right? But if you're selling direct, that's much easier to do.
Well, that's also where BookFunnel comes in. I mean, they are terrific about allowing you to have landing pages where you can give out books to anybody who shows up. You can specify, here's a list of 50 people who I'm sending a free copy of my book to, and they can claim their copy, and it's, you know, their individual name on it. So being able to give out free copies, yeah, it's amazing. This past book that I just launched, Double Takedown, I, for the first time, really made a concerted effort to send out the advanced reader copies to places that do reviews, but who require you to send it out 4 months in advance of publication. And as an indie author, I was always too impatient. I mean, I got a new book, it's ready, I got to get it out there. I want to get it published as soon as possible. And this last time I said, let me wait a little bit. And I did get picked by Forward Reviews to get a review, which is coming out in their January physical magazine. And it's also going to be on their website. And that's someplace, again, that librarians read that stuff. And it's one of those places I've never had a review by them because I've never been able to send it to them far enough in advance. So all of that planning and being able to get it out there on the right timetable so that places like that will have a chance to review it. It's all part of the indie author learning curve. You know? I'm, you know, 8 books in and just now figuring this stuff out.
You never stop learning, do you?
No.
So when you're looking to promote your paperback specifically, you had mentioned that, you know, you're sending out the letters to that independent organization, and then, you know, IngramSpark, you said, has the relationship to the bookstores and the librarians or the associations that they look to or whatever to get it on. But what do you have to do specifically though to promote it? And I know just going through IngramSpark is part of what's allowing this process, and that's where I think the disconnect is with a lot of authors, is they're just putting it on KDP, they're doing it through CreateSpace, and that's why it goes nowhere, right? And I think that this was certainly the case with me when I was writing, and I think it's still the case with a lot of authors. The paperback version for them is almost an afterthought. It's often used simply as a way to publish your book ahead of the ebook so that you can start getting reviews, so that when the ebook goes live, day one you have reviews. You're not going to really sell any copies of the paperback, but it doesn't cost you anything to upload it to CreateSpace or whatever they call it, KDP paperback or whatever they've renamed it to. So by doing it in that sense, they basically have not really any chance of selling it. But if you're going through IngramSpark, I think it's not just that you put it on IngramSpark. There are other steps to pushing it out to those bookstores and libraries, right?
Well, there is, and it's multi-layered. I mean, first of all, I also have been doing hardcovers, and the hardcovers are important, I think, because the bookstores and the libraries really like hardcovers. And when you're marketing your book to bookstores, if you're only giving them paperbacks, that doesn't mean they're not going to carry them. But they're used to this concept that the book comes out first in hardcover, and here's the hardcover, and they make more money on hardcovers. So they're happy to have your hardcovers, and they display well. And so you have that available, and you also have the paperback. I'm now putting out the paperback 3 months later than the hardcover. So the first thing is, here's the hardcover. And now if you can get that on the bookshelves, even if it's a few, people are going to see that. And it helps me get my book covers and my books out there to the audience of people who are just strolling around bookstores, not necessarily trolling Amazon. But then the paperback comes out too, and every time you put out an advertisement for the ebook, as again, people who want hardcovers or want paperbacks will look for them, and you can sell them. But specifically, when you have it on IngramSpark, it's in their catalog. You can also then get it into the Barnes & Noble catalog. These are places where there is an audience of people who are looking in those places who aren't necessarily just looking on Amazon for their next book. It's got to be on Amazon too. We all know that. But I don't do a lot of marketing that is just for the paperbacks and the hardcovers in terms of promos or advertising. I don't run Facebook ads that are specifically to the hardcover, but I always want to say that it's available, and that when you get to my website, it's right there. It's available for you. Hardcovers make a wonderful present, right? The presentation of a hardcover book with a nice dust cover and a beautiful imagery is a wonderful thing if you're giving a book away to somebody, and so you have it. And then I do a lot of that advertising through my newsletter and direct mail, direct email, making sure people know, hey, this is now available. It's try to get it out by November so that it's available for the holiday season. I did a fair amount of shipping out myself, my own catalog of hardcovers that I would autograph and just ship out in the mail on my own. Media mail is a wonderful thing. The U.S. Post Office is still there, still exists. And that's the highest profit margin for me is on a hardcover that somebody orders directly from me and I just ship out myself. That's the largest little bit of profit on one book.
What are you selling them for, and then what's your cost as an author to get a copy?
Well, for the hardcover of the new book, it's $26.99 is the retail price. So what the bookstores ultimately sell it for, it's up to them. When I order a copy, it costs me, shipping included, it costs me about $13.50 for a copy. And if I sell it directly for $25, the shipping is about $5. So if it's cost me 13.5 and $5 to ship, it's 18. I sell for 25. That's $7 profit on one book. And that's you can't get better than that.
And when you're selling them direct, I assume you're always pretty much selling autograph copies too. Right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the whole point of people coming to me directly is so that I can give them a personal autograph. And then I slip in some promo materials about my other books with that. So, a couple of bookmarks from my series. And so you try to promote everything that you can.
Right. So if somebody was to, start this process now, what would be, I guess, the order of operations in the sense that if they put it on Ingram and start the process of creating their hardcover and their paperback and all this stuff, but they want to have it out in the bookstores, and they've got to, send them messages about that to try to sell it to them, and you'd probably want to start that process ahead of when the book is ready to be published, right? So, what's the sort of order of operations? How much time do they need to do all that before publication, and to get the books to the bookstores and all that stuff?
Well, I guess my advice to people would be, first of all, start local. Start with your local bookstores. If you have stores you frequent, people you know the people at the store, let them know you're gonna have a new book coming out. Get advanced reader copies in paperback. You don't have to have a hardcover for your advanced reader copies, but get something that you can give the local bookstore and say. Obviously, you can also give them an ebook if they prefer to read on their e-reader. But 2 months, 3 months out from the date that it's going to be technically on sale, that's probably the time frame for the local bookstores, or for any bookstore really, to say, okay, I'm going to order some of these and and put them on the shelves and see if I can get people to buy them. But that's probably it. For me, the ebook is, at this point, the ebook is going to be done about 6 months before publication date, so that I can start sending out promo copies of the ebook to my reader list, to my early reviewers. And then about 4 months out, IngramSpark needs to have it in ready. So the IngramSpark needs to have the hardcover. If you're going to publish the paperback at the same time, they'd have to also have the paperback. Unfortunately, there's a tiny difference between formatting your book for IngramSpark and formatting your book for KDP, Amazon. I have a terrific cover designer, Peter from Bespoke Book Covers, who does my cover designs. He does everything to lay them out in the proper. It's just, like I say, very tiny differences in the size and the layout of your cover to get it on IngramSpark as a hardcover versus getting it on KDP as a hardcover. Same thing for the paperbacks. So you got to put a little work into that up front. And then, about 4 months out, you can do whatever marketing you're going to do to try to get the bookstores to carry them. But remember that even if you don't get them in very many bookstores, you still have that direct sale link for IngramSpark. And that allows you to essentially sell your paperbacks and hardcovers without keeping an inventory. So I don't have to have 20 copies sitting in my basement waiting for people to say that they want a copy. I can just give them the direct sale link. They go to IngramSpark's website, they order one copy, IngramSpark ships it directly. I don't have to do anything. And they get a hardcover or a paperback. So it really works the same way as Amazon, but they're getting it through IngramSpark, and I don't know how IngramSpark's algorithms work, or even have any, as far as how they promote or don't promote books from independent authors. But being able to have bookstore sales, I think, is a helpful thing when you're talking about marketing to a lot of sources, including libraries, where they see, okay, this is an author that's not just got an ebook up on Amazon and it's got a paperback version of that book. This is a real author that's got real books out in the real world. And I'm optimistic enough to think that makes a difference.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a different strategy for sure, right? And it's you're saying you're finishing your book about 6 months before you're publishing it, right? Which is it's almost more of a traditional publication timeline than it is a self-publishing. And a lot of the things that people love about self-publishing. Roland, you're on mute. A lot of the people that love about self-publishing is the fact that you can finish your book today and publish it tomorrow. If you're going this route, you're kind of backtracking to sort of the way that trad pub works, where it's like, oh, I've sent my book in and then I'll see it in a year. But now we sort of see why that is, right?
It's a question of what you want.
Discipline.
I mean, if you want to be a book publisher, or do you want to just have a book that's out? And I feel the same way about the books in terms of the quality of the writing. Is I spend a lot of time between the time I'm done with the book and the time I send it to my editor, and the time the editor finishes back to me, and the time I want that process to make the book as good as it could possibly be. And yeah, I could push it out in 2 months, but if I spend 4 months, it's going to be a little bit better. And I think the patience of doing that makes everything a little bit better. But if it's going to be a business, if you're really trying to make money, speed is not necessarily going to be what gets you there, because it's going to be a new book for the people who see it, regardless of whether you publish it today or publish it 6 months from now. It's still going to be a new book on the day that it gets published.
Right. I think people are just more impatient. They want to see their thing out there. But I agree that, it's almost like the long game, right? You're sacrificing some of these short-term things for this long, and it might take you a little longer to get the profitability, but as a strategy, it's a long-term strategy that can pay off a lot more as you go than if you just push your books out only on Amazon or only on in the ebook and then forget about it, move on to the next one. Now you're building more of an ecosystem that will eventually hopefully work out for you much more profitably, because you'll have your book will be available in so many different avenues and platforms, and especially as you add to it, right, you have all those different ways people can find your series and your books.
That is the goal. So I understand patience is hard, and I made all of those mistakes. Not mistakes. When I first published my first books, I just threw them out there as quickly as I could possibly get them out there, because I was so excited about getting that book published. And I've kind of gotten over that now, and I think that there's a process that is a little bit better. And frankly, it also allows me to get the next book in process by the time I get the previous book published, so that the next book is already half done and is in that pipeline to be published this coming fall. There'll be another book, and it has helped me, particularly in that sort of lull when you've pushed out your book and it's published, and you've gone through the launch week or the launch month, and a lot of promos and a lot of podcasts and all of the things you can do. And then you could have, okay, now what do I do? So having the next book already in the works is something that's helpful, and this whole being patient is part of that. And one thing we didn't mention is podcasts. I mean, we're doing one now. This one is more about marketing and independent authors, but there's a lot of avenues to market the book to a particular audience through podcasts and websites and blogs that are very targeted to the audience that you're trying to reach. And that's another way that you can market all your books in all of your formats. And podcasts are particularly an audience that likes audiobooks, believe it or not. Go figure, right? Listening. And so that's a place you can market your audiobook is through people who are listening to podcasts. So that's don't forget that those people exist. And podcasters love it when you contact them and say, I have something that your audience might find very interesting, and I'd love to come on your podcast and talk to you about it. Because they always want new content, and they're always looking for new ideas. And if you go to them after maybe listening to them a little bit and figuring out what they're all about, they love it. And I've had a lot of success with that.
Well, that's good for you. Now, unfortunately, we are coming to the top of the hour. So we're going to have to wrap things up, which is a pity. There are so many other topics that you mentioned as well that we could dig into. So maybe we have to have you back. I mean, there's the you recording the audio, but I don't know, lots of things. Your success in KU. Anyway, just before I ask where people can come and find your books and find out more about you, Craig, do you have any final questions?
No, I mean, I totally agree that the idea that even though it might take a bit longer, there is that the benefit of this sort of long game of going through the process of putting your book out there. And that is something that I never did, but I kind of wish that I had. I mean, at the time it was very different, but if I ever get back to writing full time and find that time to do that again, I think I would like to sort of take that avenue of pushing the books out and having them at bookstores and all that, but still remain independent. So I appreciate you coming on and telling us about the process of that and all the things that you have to do, and giving us your time for that. So thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great. I really appreciate it. And yeah, people can find me very easily. My website is kevingchapman.com. So go there, and all the links to all the books are on the website, and that's where I always want people to go first. You can also find me obviously on Amazon, but ask your local bookstore. I love it when people go to their local bookstore and ask whether they have my books, and they probably don't, but it puts the idea in their head.
In my case, it actually does, because Princeton is
In your case, it actually does.
Yeah. So I'll go look you up next time I'm down there.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kevin. And if anyone out there listening to this has appreciated what Kevin has had to say, first of all, scroll down, because we'll put the link to his website directly in the description. And underneath there is that big empty comment section. Why don't you leave Kevin a comment and let him know how much you've appreciated everything he has shared with us today. We always love reading the comments. And while you're down there, there's also that subscribe button, that like button, and that bell icon, which if you click that, you will get notified every time there is a new episode of Fully Booked. And of course, there will be a brand new episode of Fully Booked coming next week. So until then, stay tuned.